This review video is going to cover the demonstrative pronoun and adjective haec, haec, hoc, which in English means this, and in the plural, these. No matter what level of Latin you're in, demonstratives are very important. You see them a lot, and you need to have a good grasp of them. So we'll look to get you on your way with that in this video. Let's get going and jump right into it. Haec, haec, hoc. I just called it a demonstrative adjective and pronoun. Demonstrative comes from the Latin verb demonstro, which means to show or to point out. And we're going to be showing or pointing out a particular something or other. So instead of just a book or the book, we're talking about a particular one. For haec, haec, hoc, this book. It's used in one of two ways, these demonstratives, either as an adjective, and we know that adjectives agree with nouns in gender and number and case, so a demonstrative can do that. Alternatively, it can be used as a pronoun. We know that pronouns stand in the place of a noun, so it's one of these two functions. It can't be both, by the way. Demonstratives, haec, haec, hoc, it's either going to be an adjective or a pronoun. We'll see in a little bit some examples of how that works. But first, we want to look at the forms of this. Good news. If you remember this chart, an old friend, the 2-1-2 or us, adjective endings. Yeah, you remember this guy? Well, you need to know this chart. And if you know this chart, and if you know it well, then coming up with the forms for haec, haec, hoc is going to be very, very easy. Because basically, haec, haec, hoc, which again means this and these, the formation of it's very simple. We're going to take the letter H and add it to the us, endings that you know, for the most part. A few changes here and there, but mostly H plus us, endings is going to give us haec, haec, hoc. Let's take a look. Here's those us, endings again, the masculine, feminine, neuter, adjective endings. And let's work our way from the bottom of the chart to the top. So let's start with the plurals. We're going to take that set of endings in the red box there, and we're going to add the letter H in front of them. There we go. So very easy. Let's take a look at that one more time. All we did is took to the 2-1-2 adjective endings, and there's an H. And we're pretty much done with the plurals. We only need to do one basic change here, and that's going to happen in the neuter. You'll recall that in anything that's neuter, nominative and accusatives are the same. Now what we have here is the same, HA, but we're going to add an EC to it. Haec, so it looks like that. Why? Well, that's just what the Romans did. So there's that, and that's the only change we need to make. As it is, this is going to give us the plural of haec, haec, hoc. So let's take those dashes out, and we get the forms. Pronunciation, here we go, starting with the masculine nominative and working our way across the rows. He, hi, hike, horum, harum, horum, his, his, hos, has, hike, his, his. Very simple, not too bad, right? Very, very easy. Now for the singulars. And again, we'll work our way from the bottom to the top. Let's start with the accusative and the ablative singular. And again, we're going to add an H in front of those forms. So that gives us something like this. But we're not quite done. For these two cases, accusative and ablative singular, Latin is also going to add a C on the end of the forms to make the pronunciation a little easier. So let's put a C on there. And we get what looks like this. Now in the ablatives, we're done. Hoc, hoc, hoc is how we're going to pronounce those. But for the accusatives, if you try and pronounce those, you'll find it's kind of difficult to do. Pronounce it. Really sound it out phonetically. Humk, humk, humk. It's kind of tough. That MC, the MC combo is a little tough to get, isn't it? So what happened over the course of speaking Latin, the Romans decided to change the M to the letter N to make it easier to pronounce. When we do that, we get this, and if you try and pronounce these out loud, you'll find it's a lot easier to say. Hunk, honk, and hunk, isn't it? So that gets us our accusatives and our ablatives. Yes, we added the H in the front, but we also added a C at the end, and then we had to change that M to an N in the accusatives. And as we've seen a lot in Latin, there are plenty of examples of where consonants sometimes change from one to another to make a word easier to pronounce in Latin. So we shouldn't necessarily be surprised that that's happening. We have three cases left: nominative, genitive, and dative singular. We're going to take these endings here and we're going to get rid of all of them. This is where the formation of hic, haec, hoc doesn't quite approach that pattern of just adding an H to the front, but it's not too difficult, as we'll see. I told you earlier that the nominative is hic, haec, hoc, and really you just need to remember that, as you're going to have to do with the other two cases. So masculine hic, feminine haec, neuter hoc. You'll recall a few minutes ago we talked about neuters, specifically how nominative and accusative are the same. Well, that's true in the singular too. So hoc up there in the neuter nominative singular, neuter accusative singular needs to be the same. Also hoc, H-O-C. How about the genitive? It's the same form all the way across, H-U-I-U-S, huius. So huius, huius, huius. The dative is going to follow a similar pattern. Masculine and feminine and neuter are going to be the same. It's huic, H-U-I-C. So to pronounce all these forms, we get hic, haec, hoc, huius, 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 huic, 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 hunk, honk, hawk, hoke, hock, hoke. Listen to the difference there between the long O and the short O. The neuter accusative singular, hawk. The neuter ablative singular, hoke, hawk, hoke. Very different, very important distinction. So there's our complete chart. Does it look like a lot? Yes, it does. Is it a lot? Well, if you know that adjective chart, this isn't too bad. It's kind of simple, the formation of it. And as with so many other things in Latin, it follows those set patterns. You need to memorize this. It's very, very important because you see hic, haec, hoc so often. What do I recommend? Make yourself a blank chart. Maybe something like this, where you just put in those nominatives and you have to fill in the rest on your own. And it takes practice, 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 repetition, repetition, repetition. Maybe you just want something that looks like this, where you just put hic on there and fill out the whole rest of the chart on your own. Whatever works for you, figure it out. And again, you just have to do it. You do this enough times, you'll come to dislike doing it, and that means you've probably got it memorized pretty well. Now, how do we see these? Where are we going to see these in translation? Well, let's cover the adjective first. Remember, adjectives love nouns. They agree with nouns in three things: gender, number, and case. So they have to be paired up. So we could see something like hic puer. It means this boy, this particular boy. It's not just a boy or the boy. It's this one right here. Haec puella. So now we're changing from masculine to feminine, still in the nominative. So haec puella would mean this girl. What about harum feminarum? So now we're in the plural and feminine, and it's genitive. So we want to say something like of these women. This singular. The plural of this is these. So hic, haec, hoc, this and these. Now here's just a few examples. Obviously we could do them for every form in the chart. This is just to kind of get you started. How about as a pronoun? We know that the function of a pronoun is to stand in the place of a noun. So unlike an adjective where there's a noun and adjective combo, pronouns are just on their own. So we would just see maybe hic. It could mean this man or the man or just he. It could really mean any of those. Hunk, that's masculine and accusative and singular. So it would be this understood again man or him or etc. But as a direct object, obviously, because it's accusative. How about high? What would that be? Well, that form, if you think about the chart, it's feminine, it's nominative, and it's plural. So we're saying maybe these women or the women or just them. There's a little room to play here with these pronouns. Obviously, we need to know some kind of context about what's going on that we assume would have been referenced previous in a story or a text, whatever it is that we're translating. The pronouns stand in the place of a noun. If you're looking for more practice, I would dig out your Ecce Romani 1 book and check out chapter 26. There's a lot of example sentences as well as the charts. And this has been hic, haec, hoc. Thanks for watching. I would recommend checking out the next video, ille, illa, illud. That's our other demonstrative adjective pronoun that you also need to know pretty well.